The Southwind Coach Conversation brought to you by Becker Hardware in Ashen and Dave's Collision Shop in Ashen. Two Southwind Warriors will be wrestling at the state meet this week as they take on the field in Des Moines. And with us to preview the state meet is head coach Jake Elsbernd. And Jake, we'll talk about Tony and Logan here a little bit, but always the part of District Saturday. There's some highs and there's some lows, and there was a couple of heartbreaks for you guys. Let's start out with Ethan Maldonado. Unfortunately, his career came to a close last Saturday, but all in all, a heck of a resume for a good kid out of your program. Just assess what he's meant to your program.
Yeah, Ethan has been kind of a mainstay, on our team for the last 4, if not maybe 6 years. He was coming up a lot as a 7th and 8th grader to work out. And so, yeah, that's hard. That's 6 years of kind of building a bond and a relationship with that kid. And, he's a 4-time conference champ for us, only the 2nd in school history. He is tied for 3rd all-time wins list. And then, 3-time state qualifier. So yeah, it was heartbreaking watching him lose by a point, in the match that we kind of knew would be the deciding factor of whether he goes to state tournament or not. I can't say enough about that kid. He literally does everything you would ever ask of a kid from a coach's perspective. He's well-rounded, got a lot of other things, going on in his life that he excels at. And that's why we know he'll be okay, is because, he's got so much going on for him. It's not like wrestling was his only thing. He is super talented in many ways, and just a good kid, makes a lot of great decisions. And so he was absolutely the model of what you want a Southwind Warrior wrestler to be, and so I hope all of our younger kids have noticed that. So we will deeply miss him. Hopefully he will still be around. He's going to go wrestle up at Luther, so that's exciting. We can make that trip pretty easy, and we're excited for Dave and everybody to get their hands on him and keep him on the mat.
And Colin Holm on a Saturday, a kid that came into your lineup late in the season, ended up being an Upper Iowa Conference champion for you, and got to districts and got an opportunity for a wrestle back against a very tough Nashua Plainfield kid in a very tough bracket. And he was a trifle away from getting to Des Moines. Talk about how Colin has emerged on the mat here later on in the season.
Yeah, so Colin had to sit out for the first part of the season. We got him back. Right when we got him, right when he was going to be able to compete, he kind of got sick and kind of delayed that even more so. But obviously he's got a tremendous amount of ability on the wrestling mat, and we knew that. We also knew that our sectional district was about as tough as it gets. I think you could argue that the favorite to win that 138-pound weight class was his first round matchup on Saturday. One of the one twin from Central Springs. And, we knew that was going to be a tough match. We'd wrestled him in our duel and wrestled him well for a couple periods. I do think maybe in the end, I don't want to speak for Colin, but I think, in the back of your mind, it's like, well, this would be a tough one to get. And maybe your focus is on the wrestleback, and that's the kid we saw at sectionals, Nashua Plainfield. He's a couple-time place winner, I believe, as well. And we knew that was going to be a battle. We wrestled him in sectional finals, didn't come out our way, but I think throughout the week he had a great week of practice. I think the coaching staff did a great job kind of preparing, making some adjustments. And he wrestled a great match. He wrestled a great match against a very good kid. That's a state quarterfinal type match right there.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened to be at a wrestleback at districts and come out on the short end. And those are hard ones to swallow. But things just aren't given, away. The state tournament berth is not just given to anyone, and you got to earn it. And I'm excited to see him kind of respond. Because I think he feels, and I know we feel as a coaching staff, that had he been down there, he's on the podium. And so this will be probably tough for him to go down there to the state tournament and watch maybe and see some kids that he knows he can compete with. But we're excited for his future and his off season, because there's no doubt in our mind that he could definitely make even more noise next year.
And Aiden Feikert's season came to a close on Saturday, but a 30-win campaign for him this year, and a bright future for that young man as well, correct?
Yeah, Aiden has a tremendous year. He made so many improvements. He got a little bit bigger and stronger for a weight class he was undersized for last year. But he also, made so many gains in just the technical aspect of the sport. He has got a great mindset. He's a goer, scrappy, and we're really excited about that. We knew that the district tournament would be an uphill, battle for him. There's, again, I think the second ranked kid and the fifth or sixth ranked, he had a couple kids that we knew was going to be tough. And he had a good week of practice too. There were some things that we worked on that, he almost hit a move early in his first match that we knew could be, if he was able to accomplish it, would be a game changer, and didn't quite get it. Wrestled hard, never gonna, question Aiden's fight. He fights in practice, he fights, in his matches. And a junior next year for us, we're looking for him to be a major leader of the team. We're excited for his off-season work as well. And I think if he can make, the same amount of games, he's going to be a pretty tough out down those lower weight classes, and definitely as a returning conference champ, someone we're going to look to for some leadership on this team.
And let's move on to the guys that will be wrestling this week in Des Moines. Logan Hageman at 195. You look at what this kid has been through this year, a major injury in a football season. You get him back really the second half of the season here in wrestling. And if there's a tougher kid than Logan Hageman, I haven't seen him.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think back to, the football season when Logan got hurt. I think it really took a lot of wind out of sail of the football team. He was a tremendous leader, just, both vocally and just, by leading and by example on both sides of the football. And, when that happened, it's kind of, right, we just lost him for football, but probably lost him for wrestling too, right? And there was a pretty emotional day in the training room that following week, and he had a decision to make. And, I guess as a coach, I told him I'd support whatever decision he does make and his family. And he's that tough of a kid that he wanted to go give it a shot, not really knowing how it was going to go, but he worked his tail off rehabbing, both with his PT and as well as our trainer, Heather. Shout out to both of them as well for giving Logan everything they had to help rehab. And then it was really kind of, how are we going to move forward in the season, kind of managing him and the pain and the swelling. What can he do? How can we get him in shape? But Logan's done a tremendous job. Obviously, he has great support from his family at home. And that was, it was really 2 weeks in a row. Sectionals, we knew semifinals. He had a tough match. And that one was a pretty gritty performance. And so that was a great feeling. But then again, with the big pin, first round districts, was a pretty great feeling for, the coaches and, Logan himself, his teammates, his family, and our fans. Cause everybody knows what kind of kid Logan is. And for him to get through all that and punch his ticket to the state tournament was pretty awesome.
And Tony Grieve has had a great career, another great season for him at 220, and he's still wrestling as well. What's made it another successful year for him?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, Tony's gotten better every year. He started off, with 5 wins as a freshman on varsity. He was a JV for most of the year at 120 pounds, right? So 100 pounds less than what he's wrestling now. And he kind of, just kept growing and growing. And he was a district qualifier as a sophomore, but got sick, was not able to wrestle. And then took another step last year, moved up to 195. Was a district qualifier again. And as time was, kind of finishing his match, he had a kid on his back to go to state. Didn't quite get it. All right. But then this year he was able to just make a few more improvements and put together a really nice season, 30 plus win season, only 5-6 losses. I think the biggest thing with Tony is, every kid's different. And I want to give a shout out to our coaching staff for, I think, recognizing every kid's strengths and weaknesses as a wrestler. And Tony really just, got to work on the things that will work for him. We're not trying to do things that we think are great because they worked for us as coaches. What can Tony Grieve do well? And he has really fine-tuned that this year and has been successful. And so, we knew going into the district tournament with him, he had a great opportunity ahead of him to win the bracket. But we also knew that was a pretty balanced bracket as far as, if you don't wrestle well, it's going to be a battle. Unfortunately, he was able to win that first round match in a tough win. And then was able to, obviously make the state tournament. And we like where he's at in his bracket as well. We feel like we can go get a first round win and keep kind of plugging away there. So we're pretty excited for both him and Logan.
And you brought up an interesting point about individually coaching all of the young men that are in your room. Are there some characteristics that you would like to see, like everybody in your room have, and how do you balance that with coaching to the individual abilities and the individual what each kid can do? Where's that fine line?
Yeah, it is a very fine line. And sometimes it gets kind of hard to navigate. I know beginning of the season, there's a core belief of what every kid does need to know, regardless of their skill level, their strength, the way that their shape and size. There's just things that a wrestler needs to know position wise. And then as the year kind of progresses, once you feel like you have that foundation of kids, now we start moving over and be like, hey, this is where you really need to work at in this position or that position. This group over here, or this kid individually over here might be doing something totally different. That's why it's so big, when we have all of our coaches available, just because I feel the confidence in any one of them to go around and identify where our kids, need work on, or where we can kind of take advantage of others because of this kid's ability.
And what's going to take for Logan and Tony to have as successful of a weekend as they possibly can?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, you can look a little bit into who they wrestle maybe at the state tournament. But also, like I said, kind of knowing where our kids have been successful. I don't think there's a lot to change. I think it's a little thing here and there. And, with two of them, we get all week to work with two kids and really get those two kids ready. There's probably just as much mental prep right at this point as there is physical. If we can get these kids believing in themselves, anything's possible here this week.
All right, Coach, congrats on getting two kids down to Des Moines, and hopefully it's as long of a stay for both of them on the mat as possible. We wish best of luck this weekend.
Hey, thanks, Darren. Appreciate everybody's support. Hope to see some familiar faces down in Des Moines as well.
Jake Elsbernd, head coach of the Southwind Warriors. Two Warriors will be battling beginning Thursday night at 6 o'clock.